This program contains graphic content which may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
You can become a part of this great heritage simply by calling in.
From my cold, dead hands.
Between 1964 and 1980, NRA membership tripled, from 600,000 to nearly 2 million, and its coffers exploded with new dues. In 1977, new NRA members ousted the old board and replaced them with new and much more political leadership.
In the late 1970s, they do a coup overnight in the NRA. And the NRA, instead of becoming a group that represents gun owners and their members, becomes a group that represents gun manufacturers that is much more interested in pushing out guns.
From there on out, the NRA was extremely hardline about opposing all gun control.
I am against the kind of gun control that is being talked in the Congress of the United States. I see it as only something that would make it difficult for an honest citizen to own a gun, but would do nothing at all to impede the criminal in his getting a gun.
In 1980, the NRA endorsed for the first time a presidential candidate, Ronald Reagan. Reagan was nearly killed in an assassination attempt in 1981. His press secretary, James Brady, who was also shot, became permanently disabled. In 1983, Reagan became the first American president to address the NRA.
It's a nasty truth, but those who seek to inflict harm are not fazed by gun control laws.
In the mid-1980s, the organization aggressively courted new members.
You can become a part of this great heritage simply by calling now.
And the really big change happened in the 1980s when it became more about building membership, fundraising. They've kind of become a little bit more fundamental.
The NRA really ramped up its political efforts throughout the 80s and 90s, pushing back on any efforts by states or Congress to restrict gun rights through background checks or waiting periods before guns could be purchased.
But despite their growing power, in 1993, Congress passed, over NRA objections, the Brady Act, requiring federal background checks on firearm purchases. The group also opposed the assault weapons ban, which the president signed the following year.
Since the Brady bill passed, 250,000 felons, fugitives, and mentally unstable persons have been stopped from purchasing handguns.
Back then, officers were trained to set up a perimeter and wait for SWAT. It's why it took more than 40 minutes for police to go inside during Columbine.
Well, what we've learned is that if you can address an active threat immediately, the probability of reducing victims is greater.
Because of Columbine, entering the building right away is part of the training every officer in the state must go through to be certified. It's a tactic they felt was necessary to save more lives.
Al Gore wants government testing, licensing, and registration for all firearms owners. He cast the vote that would have shut down every gun show. This year, vote freedom first, because if Al Gore wins, you lose.
In 2000, NRA president and former actor Charleston Heston vowed then presidential candidate Al Gore could only take his Second Amendment rights
from my cold, dead hands.
In the early 2000s, the NRA really began to hit its stride. It rolled out its grading system, issuing A+s to politicians most in line with its vision, and Fs to those in favor of gun control. Voters take that system seriously. The right grade makes or breaks a politician's career.
In 2001, in a Fortune magazine survey, lawmakers and congressional staffers considered NRA America's most influential lobbying group. And with President Bush taking power, no new federal challenges to gun rights emerged. In 2004, the assault weapons ban expired and wasn't renewed.
David Yamani, an expert on the evolution of gun culture, says demand began to change after 9/11 and when the assault weapons ban expired in 2004.
So you have a really broad-based interest in self-defense in gun culture, and this is maturing at the same time as we begin to fight this global war on terror. And with the sunsetting of the assault weapons ban in 2004, you really unleash all of this pent-up demand for these kind of rifles.
Gun manufacturers responded to this increased demand in military-style firearms by tailoring their marketing accordingly.
Remember, to get the gun into the fight is very, very quick. But don't be fast when taking the gun out of the fight.
So in 2008, Magpul Dynamics released a DVD called The Art of the Tactical Carbine, and it was hosted by two military veterans, and it was basically live video of them teaching courses on how to use carbines, which are small rifles like the AR, to shoot quickly, to shoot accurately, to shoot around barricades, to shoot while lying down. And this video was incredibly popular among civilians. That then becomes a leverage point for advertisers in the gun industry to take advantage of people's interest in these military special forces. What type of equipment are they using? What type of rifles are they using? There's a growing civilian interest in things like plate carriers, night vision goggles, things that you wouldn't think that the average civilian in the United States would necessarily need in terms of their home defense plan.
In 2008, the NRA won a huge Supreme Court case, finding that the Second Amendment guaranteed private individuals, and not just a well-regulated militia, a constitutional right to own guns.
The Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment means Americans are entitled to a gun as a defense against tyranny.
I stand here today humbled.
People immediately fear that he's going to confiscate their guns, including or especially their assault weapons. Obama then becomes the greatest gun salesman in American history.
Mr. Obama's the best gun salesman on the planet.
Every time he talks, he drives up sales.
The worst grade school shooting in U.S. history, at least 27 dead, 20 children, 7 adults, including the principal. And the gunman killed himself.
On Friday morning, Adam Lanza shoots his first victim, his mother.
Officials say Lanza shot his mother Nancy multiple times, killing her in her bed. Lanza then took 4 guns legally registered to his mother and drove this black Honda to Sandy Hook Elementary School, about 5 miles away. Then, around 9:30 Friday morning, Lanza entered the building carrying a Bushmaster AR-15 assault rifle with 2 semi-automatic handguns inside the pockets of his military-style cargo pants. Police say he was also carrying hundreds of rounds of ammunition in multiple magazines. As the gunfire continued, 911 calls were made, and just before 9:36, a police dispatcher radioed the first alert.
6-7 Sandy Hook School. Callers indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building.
Lanza headed down a hallway towards the section of the school containing the classrooms of the youngest students. There, he killed 20 first graders, shooting all of them numerous times with the .223 assault rifle. 6 adult women, including the principal, the school psychologist, and teachers were also killed. Police radio logs suggest the shooting lasted about 10 minutes. The slaughter ended as the first police officers arrived on the scene.
10 minutes after the horror begins, police storm in. This proves to be a critical decision. Officials say following Columbine, the new protocol to go in right away was a life-saving call.
That included checking every door, every crack, every crevice, every portion of that school. Our main objective was to evacuate as quickly and efficiently as possible any and all students and faculty in the school.
The gunman, aware police are entering the building, takes his own life. And while police say hundreds of shots had already been fired, if not stopped, he had enough ammunition to kill or injure many more.
They say he had so much ammunition that many more could have been killed had first responders not reached him when they did.
It takes an agonizing hour before it becomes clear just what's taking place inside the school.
Okay, these units in the school, I got bodies here.
By 11 a.m., police give the first indications that there are multiple fatalities inside. By 11:50 a.m., they announce most of the fatalities are children. It is almost unimaginable. 27 dead, 20 children. The man responsible for taking these lives, 20-year-old Adam Lanza. Lanza's body found in a classroom after he took his own life.
Increasingly, Adam was so troubled he would not leave the house. And his mother, Nancy, in the last few months, told friends she was losing control of her 20-year-old son. But despite Adam's issues, friends say Nancy Lanza took her son to local firing ranges and introduced him to the world of high-powered guns, including the Bushmaster AR-15 assault-style weapon he used to kill his victims. Demonstrated here in a video posted on the company YouTube channel, the Bushmaster can fire 45 rounds per minute and is the most popular style semi-automatic rifle in the country. Federal agents say Nancy Lanza bought her Bushmaster legally in March 2010, a model apparently tailor-made by the company to be legal even under Connecticut law that supposedly bans assault weapons.
Oh. Okay, Brian Ross reporting in on his investigation.